This budget debate for them. And the second one is
important document for our children, as you said, sir, our leaders of the main conference centre. Well, little matters. The farewell dinner will be held at the Mecca lawn, which is on that side of the complex.
The Honourable Speaker of the Parliament of the Republic of Fiji, Dr. Chico Luveni, Honourable Ministers, good to see some of the fellow ministers from the Pacific here, UNICEF Deputy Regional Director for East Asia and Pacific, Ms. Vivienne Belmont, UNICEF Pacific Representative, Mr. Sheldon Yet, representatives of the World Bank, permanent secretaries, representatives from our development partners and other institutions, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Bula Vinaka, and a very good afternoon to all of you. Before I actually speak on this, I have to declare my interest. I kind of feel conflicted because I'm speaking on a topic in which I have very personal interest. I have a 9-week-old baby, or 10 weeks, exactly 10 weeks today. Actually, I have to tell you this story. Our daughter, I should say, was born on 7/7/17, and then our 3-year-old son was born on 4/4/14, and our 5-year-old son was born on 11/11/11. And all 3 of them were born on a Friday. So there's some story behind it. So I have to tell you, that's my interest there. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to be here this afternoon to close out these 3 days of discussions on the development and well-being of our younger citizens here at the 2017 Pacific Early Childhood Development Conference. I'd first of all like to begin by extending my sincere thanks to the organizers of this conference. Thank you to UNICEF, the World Bank, and the Pacific Regional Council for Early Childhood Care and Education for bringing in all our participants together to discuss how we in the Pacific, as Pacific Islanders, can expand the reach of high-quality early childhood care, development, and indeed education. As host of this year's conference, on behalf of the Fijian government and the Fijian people, I would like to also say how honored we are to host all of you here in Fiji. We hope you've been able to secure some time, I should say, and see some of the beauty that surrounds us here in Danarau and experience the hospitality we Fijians are well known for. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference has been a historic gathering, as the earlier speakers have said, as it marks the first time we brought together such a wide range of experts and policymakers to discuss early childhood development in the Pacific. We have 15 nations here present at this conference. We have men and women with different backgrounds in education, economic management, health, child protection, and social welfare. We have participants from academia and the development organizations who have added vital context to the various panels, presentations, and deliberations. The range of perspectives that you've all brought to the table has had a profound impact on the quality and scope of the discussions, and of course it's given all of us a much clearer picture of the progress our region has made in early childhood development and of the work that remains undone, and that is of course our main challenge. When we look at the development of our children, particularly in the earliest stages of their lives, our ultimate goal is to establish a foundation to prepare them for the journeys through education and eventually for the challenges of young adulthood, how they develop themselves and become adults and contributing adults, self-fulfilling lives that they will have on their own. Those journeys will be impacted by every aspect of our national life and every facet of our development. So I'm very glad your discussions have reached across ministerial and sectorial lines to incorporate the vast array of factors that shape the care and development and education of our children. As we all know, it isn't just investments in education and social services that shape outcomes for our young children or from the students they will grow to become. Outcomes aren't determined solely by what happens in the classroom or by formal education, for example, but they're determined by the entirety of the work we do to better build and build smarter cities and towns and indeed societies. When the children, for example, see their parents do well, and I don't mean necessarily only financially, economically well, or they do find better jobs or realize new potentials and new opportunities and are able to lead self-fulfilling lives, they also themselves feel inspired to succeed in their own endeavors. When they see the communities grow and develop all around them, they themselves feel empowered and secure. And when they see their nation rise up, overcome challenges, and become more prosperous and become more stable, they feel motivated to one day carry their country to even greater heights. That is why I'm very glad to see such a comprehensive approach reflected in the strategies we put forward, and I completely agree with the sentiments. Very important to have early childhood development factored into our planning, into our national strategies, and also as part of the economic impact of it and what it will have in terms of the long-term impact, whether it's negative or positive. But we obviously need to be able to ensure that we take that into consideration. In your work and contribution of the past 3 days have moved forward our collective agenda to steadily realize the sustainable development goals that relate to the development of our children. Thanks to the work of the participants at this year's conference, we can also be proud to put forward our specific call to action on early childhood development that the Honourable Minister talked about, that states the importance of this mission and sets the pace for accelerating action on early childhood development throughout our region. Congratulations on the recommendations that we've all outlined that have been put forward to our region. Your call to action is a recognition that robust and comprehensive early childhood care and education are critical to affording the next generation in new levels of opportunity, opportunities perhaps their own parents may well have been denied. And so, as is so often the benefit of our regional engagement, these recommendations are tailored to the realities we all face as Pacific Island countries, realities unique to the part of the world we all call home. The same way, we have certain realities regarding climate change. As you know, our leaders are currently gathered. And in fact, tomorrow morning, we have the PISIs getting together and having a discussion, and our Honourable Prime Minister, as you know, will have the presidency of COP23. There are a number of key factors, of course. Climate change has enormous impact on what our development agenda will be. And indeed, even if we do set a development agenda, whether we'll be able to actually fulfill it will be impacted upon climatic changes that we'll face. We expect that every government represented here over the past 3 days will carry out the recommendations that have arisen from this conference. We can say that this government, of course, we ourselves will take these recommendations seriously, because we know that the care and education and development of our children, the youngest Fijians, will have a profound impact on the future direction and success of our country at a macro level. We know that just as you must build a strong home on a solid foundation, so must we build strong citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, from a Fijian perspective, under the leadership of our Honourable Prime Minister, equitable access to all services is the cornerstone of our domestic agenda, whether it be simple things like electricity, water, telecommunications, or any other government services critical to our development. And that commitment extends to early childhood development education. Because as beneficial as these programs can be, and this is very important, ladies and gentlemen, if they aren't managed equitably, they can also serve to deepen the gaps in opportunity already present in our societies. As I just said last night at the opening of a new television premises, that whilst, for example, we may talk about the digitalization or the advent of telecommunications creating or being the great equalizer, it in fact can become the greatest disequalizer. Because if that level of technology is only available in the urban centers, you'll create an even bigger gap between those urban centers and those in the rural areas. Similarly, we have to ensure that the programs we implement through early childhood development and be able to address that we are able to apply that across the board. And sometimes we forget that. Because when only available to a select few, these programs can grant advantages that perpetuate socioeconomic divides. We should not allow that to be the case. We should not allow opportunity to go only to those who can afford it. We must work together to ensure that every Pacific child participates in programs that prepare them for the next level of development, for the next level of education, and prepare them one day to carry their respective country, of course, into the future. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I ask that we all hold each other accountable to these recommendations that have actually been highlighted today. That we should all support each other wherever possible to keep up the momentum of advancing every early childhood development. Because the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, as Pacific Island countries, we do not necessarily have the economies of scale. It's been one of the greatest challenges for most Pacific Island countries. We do not necessarily have the right expertise. We don't have the right level of skill sets that's available. We in Fiji, for example, don't even have a full-time practitioner in speech therapy available in our public health system. There's one person available. In the budget we've just announced in the 2017-2018 budget, we have funded the Hilton Special School. And the first time we've actually started such a program, we've allocated close to $1 million, where we will have specialists actually making interventions at the right time soon after birth. If, for example, various impediments are detected, they can make those early interventions to help people those children overcome those impediments, those development issues. So, ladies and gentlemen, as Pacific Islanders, we, and from a Fijian perspective, we stand ready to do our part, ready to share our experiences in carrying out this vital work, and ready to think creatively about how to overcome the challenges that our region and geography present to expanding access to these critical programs. If we are all serious about helping our children, we need to work together. We need to collaborate and learn from each other. We need to open lines of communication. We need to be able to be comfortable discussing the problems we face and be bold in the solutions we put forward. Sometimes I think when we start talking as nation states, we tend to become a bit jealous about our own territory, and we also tend to become a bit territorial in not wanting to share perhaps some of the problems we may have in our country, our respective countries. But we need to be open about it. Because frankly, at the end of the day, if we're able to talk about what our weaknesses are, what our strengths are, we'll be able to learn from each other, and ultimately will be beneficial to all our citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, I encourage the ministers here today to form bonds among one another, to form relationships that we can all rely on to lift up every child in the Pacific. I ask that we meet informally and speak frankly about what we've found has worked and what hasn't. And together we'll chart a way forward, and we'll do well by the children and the families whom we are all here to serve. The Minister for Samoa is here. We've had some informal discussions regarding, for example, the finance sector. We talk about tax evaders in the Pacific. We similarly can share those types of experiences pertaining to development of our children. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again. It's always terrible being the last speaker for the day. I'd like to thank everybody who participated in this year's conference. Thank you for coming to spend the time with us in Fiji to discuss this very important issue and help us chart a way forward to give the next generation of Pacific Islanders the resources and opportunities they need to find success. I wish you all a very safe travel back home, and I know I speak for every Fijian when I say that we very much hope to see you back again in Fiji sometime very, very soon. And I wish you a very good day. Thank you.